from Boston and beyond. Heat981fm.com and iHeartStation.
Tonight's episode of Conversations with Coach La is brought to you by Virtual Services by Shamina Austin. Do you need to delegate some tasks, or are you looking to declutter a space? Well, assign it to her. Introducing Virtual Services by Shamina Austin. She's currently accepting new clients and offers a variety of back office services depending on your needs. Contact Shamina at 857-273-1528, 857-273-1528, or email shaminaaustin@gmail.com for more information.
Conversations with Coach La.
Coach La, your favorite neighborhood therapist, having real hard convos, contrasting pessimists. Generational trauma explored, broach delicate, getting to the root of the pain, healing impediments. Every week signs copay free lessons. Bet on self, trust the process, no questions. Feel your feels, journey to be healed, no stressing. Conversations with Coach La's now in session.
To another episode of Conversations with Coach La with your favorite around the way therapist right here live from the Urban Heat Studios. Y'all don't even understand what kind of night your girl is having, your therapist is having. So on my way here tonight to the studio, I got a flat tire. So I am literally like, when I tell you I'm running in here like a crazy lady, had to leave the car. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm still going to do the show anyway. So yeah. It's been a crazy night. And what is so crazy about this is that tonight's show is all about bounce back magic, right? And being resilient and not letting things take you off your swivel. So, you know, we're at Radio with a Purpose. And tonight's show is going to be a whole lot of fun. Because I have one of my sisters on here with me tonight. And a lot of you guys may know her already because, you know, she has a couple of different brands, but the one that you know her most for is Bitter. Team Bitter. I remember when we first started this, oh my God, so many moons ago. And people were like, I don't know, what's this whole thing about Bitter? And everything about her is about rebranding and remixing adversity, right? And so her story of just taking her pain and turning it into purpose. And you, like I told you, we are Radio with a Purpose, right? So let me tell you a little bit about Miss Vick Breedy. She's an author. She's an entrepreneur. She's a passionate self-care advocate whose mission is to support, inspire, and encourage people to access their bounce back magic. The inner strength and resilience needed to overcome life's challenges, like I told y'all. I literally was driving. I'm like, something ain't right. I was like, my car is driving funny. I said, I think I got a flat. And I had to get a flat on the worst street ever in the dark area. So I had to find a lighted area so I could figure out what was going on. Damsel in distress. But she has a portfolio that includes 5 self-published novels, two self-care journals, and her Genetically Resilient brand, which is hats and t-shirts and hoodies. She even got some leggings and things of that nature as well. Breedy has cemented her place as a voice for empowerment through her Selfish Women's Group, which I'm also a part of that as well, and the Stereotyped men's group that she curates and facilitates pretty frequently. One is, I believe, mostly monthly. The other one comes up quarterly. She has created safe spaces for honest dialogue and community support. Now, if you don't know, you need to go and subscribe to her website, which is vickbreedy.com. And I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest. Let's welcome.
Hey.
Girl.
Hey.
But Coach La, you've been on this virtual couch a couple of times, so you're no novice to how we get down. Okay. How you doing? What's going on? How you feeling?
I'm glad to see you.
Girl. Glad to see me too. I was like, I'm going to just cancel it. Then I'm like, I'm only 5 minutes. I literally got a flat tire 5 minutes away from the studio. So y'all pray for me that the car's still sitting there. I'm like, thank God I got some tools and resources. So if they do tow it, I'll figure it out.
You'll be okay. Think positive.
right. I'll be all right. Tonight's all about bounce back magic, but I did not want to be the example of being resilient this evening. So tell me, what's been going on with Miss Vick Breedy? What don't we know from your bio? Who is Vick Breedy?
Shantae.
Oh, you're giving out governments tonight. Okay. All right. We're getting the government tonight. All right. So Shantae.
Yeah.
So who is Shantae? Because
Shantae is
back in the day, can I tell them this little quick story?
good,
We thought she
good.
was we thought that she was a ghost writer because she came out as Vick Breedy and she wrote Bitter. The first Bitter, we thought she was writing about our college life, like from The Best Man. We thought she was on that. So now you're giving us your government. So who's Shantae? What's up, Rika?
Rika's in the chat. I can't see it. Okay. Shantae is Vick Breedy. So Vick Breedy is the maiden names of my maternal and paternal grandmothers. So it's Gloria. Well, Gloria is the Breedy and Francis is the Vick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to use a family name and also have an author name.
Okay. So you're pulling your strength from the matriarchs in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Very strong name. It's interesting because I'm sure a lot of people don't know what to expect. Are they going to meet a male or a female with a name like Vick Breedy? You don't really know.
Right. Whenever somebody meets me and I say Vick Breedy, and then when they approach me again, they say Vicky. And I'm like, okay.
How about that? Ooh, okay. That's interesting.
Right.
So how do you handle that?
They just feminize it. I'm like, okay. I just lean in.
You lean into it. Okay. So what inspired you to use a pen name though?
I think I was nervous in the beginning to, put my name out there and attach it to the work. Just because this isn't the only thing that I do. Mm-hmm. Right. So my 9 to 5, I didn't want that to in any way hurt me or hurt my 9 to 5. If you've read Bitter, you know that it's not a book you can leave around children.
Okay.
So
it was controversial.
Definitely.
So when you think about that, do you have any, I don't want to use the word regrets, but would you do things differently?
Nah, nope.
You would still do the same thing. You would still use a pen name.
Yep. Unless, this was my main bread and butter. Like if I didn't have to work 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. But here I am 10 years later, I'm a little bit more comfortable. But
so that brings me to this idea of having an authentic voice, right? And working in corporate America, being a woman of color, having to use a pen name for wanting to be safe. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming you didn't want it to threaten your livelihood.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that they would have come and said, hey, you can't write this book. We saw you write a book. Like, what do you think?
No, I don't think that. I think that because of the population that I serve, I wouldn't want them, I didn't want them to, not want me to serve them based on the fiction that I was writing.
Oh, okay. So basically you thought you might be discriminated against in some ways.
No, not discriminated against. I just didn't want them to be uncomfortable with who was providing, services to them based off of what was inside of my books. And, and often people get mixed up with my characters and me.
So that's a great point, because I think I've also sort of struggled with being a therapist, right? A psychotherapist, and then doing this show and just being out in the community and just navigating the world in general, and people utilizing that as an indicator of whether or not I could provide services or not. And you don't think that's like discrimination? Because how is it what you write gonna go against what you do for a career and whether or not you can do a good job?
Right. Well, when you said discrimination, I thought you were more so thinking about it in terms of my employers. But the people that I'm providing services to, the service is free. So
Yeah.
so,
I think a lot of us struggle with how do we merge our identities? You know, we call it code switching, right? Like you have to be multiple cells, multiple pieces of your identity. And sometimes that is stressful, at least for a lot of my clients, on how they need to show up in different spaces. What would happen if they show up as their authentic self in that space? Will they be accepted, not accepted? So I feel like a lot of identity stuff sort of just comes up for me in terms of not just using a pen name, but just in general, people in terms of their name, they take and make it an initial because they, you know, on their resumes, because if they put Lakeisha, you know, they feel like maybe they won't get an interview. So they'll put L Austin. You know, I was recommended once to put L Austin so they wouldn't have an opportunity to know whether I was male or female, or to be able to assume I was a Black woman.
right.
So I just makes me think about how much we have to reshape our identities in certain spaces to be accepted.
Mhm.
And tonight's topic is really about that too, like in terms of like practicing self-care and just being worried about what people think.
Yes. If you like your check, you have to be.
Well, when you put it like that, you know, but I think that that speaks to so many things, right? On why people don't speak up. I think about bystanders, right? The whole bystander syndrome, where people will see something that happens that they don't necessarily agree with, but they say nothing because they don't want retaliation or they don't want to lose their job.
Mhm.
That is so much a part of, I think, a lot of people of color's livelihood or life is like, you know, I ain't saying nothing to that. I want to get my check.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's why a lot of people are moving towards entrepreneurship who struggle with that.
very much so. So thinking about therapy, and how that has played a role in you navigating your pain to purpose.
Okay.
Your books have served as therapy, but I know you recently talked a little bit about actually going to a therapist. Can you share some light on what therapy means to you now, how that's maybe morphed and changed throughout these 5 books?
I think therapy has made me more self-aware. So that's what therapy, is doing for me and has done for me. Whereas, I was operating in ways that I wasn't aware. I
Mm,
wasn't aware. And now I can put names to things,
mhm.
where I couldn't before. So that's definitely probably influenced this next book, Bounce Back Magic, that I put out. That took me 3 years to write.
3 years. So, you
Yeah.
know, one of the things I noticed about you, you go into like a space in the lab where we don't even know you're working on a book sometimes. And then next thing you know, a book comes out. Um, but this one I feel like is really special for you. Can you talk about why this one is near and dear to your heart?
Sure. Well, first, I think I'll start with after I wrote Selfish Woman's Group in 2020, my next plan was to write a science fiction book. And I wanted to challenge myself to do that. So I was watching science fiction movies. I tried to pick up a couple of novels, and I wrote, I don't know how many words, maybe 10 to maybe 20,000 words at least. And it was just like, I want to say it was like too hard. And I don't mean too hard to write, just too hard for me to think outside of reality. It was almost as if I couldn't imagine it. It was too laborious. And I was like, this is not what writing is for me. Like, if I got to struggle this hard with it, that's not something that I'm ready to do right now, because writing for me is therapeutic. And, nothing about that was making me feel good. And so I threw it out and got stuck. I wasn't stuck on content, but stuck in terms of like motivation. I was kind of talking down to myself, like, oh, you tried something new and then you just gave it up, Aren't you supposed to be the
You
person
should have
that's
stuck
supposed
with
to
it.
be resilient? Right? Yeah. And, I didn't do it. And then I said, let me go back to what I know. And I started Bounce Back Magic, but I started it, like I said, like 3 years ago. And I was just going piece by piece, and I would start and stop, and then I would not be motivated. As you know, I work a full-time job, and I'm on the computer and I type a lot, and I just didn't feel like typing or dedicating time to writing after work. I was done. And this is like pandemic, right? And I went through a few things, had a couple of losses. I lost my grandmother. I went through a divorce. I wasn't coming out the house. So although I had things to write about, I wasn't motivated to write. So this book is special because it showed me that I could, still go through all that and bounce back. I was nervous. I didn't know if I still had it because I could, start a book and finish it within a year. And I'm like, 3 years? What's going on?
Right.
So
it makes me think about when people lose motivation or get writer's block, right? And then you're saying you started a whole book and then threw it out. Sort of had to just kind of sit with yourself and like reflect on what your next move would be. And I know there's a lot of people that probably go through that and feel that way about life. You start a particular job or you get a degree in something and then you get a job in that field, or maybe sometimes you don't get a job in that field at all. And it's like, what am I supposed to be doing with myself right now? And then you mentioned the negative self-talk of kicking in and sort of kicking you in the butt about, where you are. Now, what got you out of that space? What helped you to bounce back?
What got me out of that space? I said, let me write what I like to write. And I went back to my first love and I started writing poetry.
Okay,
and
let's talk about it.
The poetry got me back,
Y'all know how I feel about poetry. So listen, a lot of people don't understand, even if you are not a poet, you can just start with just writing lines, haikus, just getting out how you're feeling does so much. Journaling in general does so much, and how you might come out with a whole book, whole ebook, who knows? But poetry, huh?
Poetry.
Therapy did it, huh?
I'll give you that.
Well, I meant that like in a way of poetry is therapy.
It is.
Poetry is therapy. And it sort of allows you to connect back to the creativity, because you not only just went back to poetry, you dropped a whole spoken word album.
I did.
So talk to me about that.
Yeah, that was, I don't even know when that was. Was that February? I think that was February. I just drop something and then keep it moving and go move on to something else, and there's no time to celebrate in between.
Fair to say, it was like, oh, I'm doing something different, and then a whole album came out, which y'all got to go and download that. That's on all platforms. It's called Fluorescent Black.
Yes.
And I've been dropping snippets of it with all of my posts. I love confidence. I love strong Black Womanitis.
That's on the back of the book too. You see, I put that there.
Yes, and I'm gonna grab that book. I got it.
Okay.
I'm about to grab it because there's some stuff I need to read up out of there. Yeah, she definitely, Rika said, she now, you gifted us with a masterpiece. You guys got to go check it out. I don't know why you didn't submit it for a Grammy nomination. You were scared?
No, I don't know anything about submitting anything for anything. I just write and put it out and hope y'all like it.
Oh man. Y'all see, I'm totally discombobulated today. But y'all still gonna get this show, okay? Y'all gonna get this show, and then I'm gonna go take care of my car. So some of the things that with poetry, what's different in terms of like the creative process for poetry versus writing a novel?
It comes quickly for me, and I look forward to like that challenge. I like to, most of my poetry it rhymes, not a lot of blank verse. But nobody's waiting for it, and it's in short snippets. Whereas, writing a story, you got to develop characters and a story, and it's a lot more of a commitment. And yeah, I love, like, if somebody says, give me this topic, it's almost like a freestyle. You know how people can just freestyle? Like, I can freestyle with poetry, writing, not so much speaking.
My brain was like,
oh, spit a hot 16 for you.
Listen, don't get me. I'm about to challenge.
But I'm pretty good with, if you give me a topic, I'll be able to bang it out for you and deliver it relatively quickly. Turn around.
Yes. Anaye Music, she has a song called Colors.
Oh yeah.
She put out a challenge for that, and I attempted to do that, and I don't know, it wasn't coming to me the way I wanted, but you put out something real dope.
Thank
real
you.
quick too. I was like, okay. It was very erotic and all of that, because we do a little bit of erotic poetry too.
Mm-hmm.
So the process is it allows you to be creative. It's not so labor intense, sounds like it, and it also, no one's waiting for it, right? So you can just sort of be creative and just drop it when you get ready.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, we don't often know when you're dropping a book. So you doing like how an artist, you give yourself a deadline and you're supposed to put out a book every so often. Is that your own pressure and your own?
It used to be like, I drop a book and then I try to promote it, for like 6 months to a year and drop another book.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing. It's almost like 2 years I was dropping books. And, like I said, this one was 3 years, so.
This is the new book.
Yeah. It's my sister on the cover, y'all.
Yes, this is the new book. So this novel is meant to serve as an acknowledgement. The vulnerability expressed in this novel is the author's way of saying, I see you. This three-way conversation between the author, the character, and the reader is a creative outlet that encourages Black women to prioritize self-care, to do what it takes to feel whole, to feel fulfilled, and to find balance. Okay, now bounce back magic. So there's 3 women in this book. You always have a characters. It's always character development. I noticed that. And I'm always intrigued by how you take us through their life story. So in this one, we have Soul.
Yep. Afro-Latina.
Isha.
Yep.
And Amina.
Yep.
And the intersection of their sisterhood and their friendship and the adversities that they are going through, which I would say is a lot of trying to find themselves, their voice, identity. So tell me, how do you go about developing these characters? Because you have a really unique way that you do that.
Yeah. So I don't usually name the characters. I usually start with the emotion, like what I want or the problem, so like, say for Amina, it would be like, all right, Amina is that's for abandonment. And then that keeps me focused on what her storyline is. Isha is insecure. That keeps me with her storyline. And what do we have for Soul? What was Soul going through? Soul was going through loss and grief.
Her mom.
Right. So
I don't know how much we want to give away.
Yeah.
I am probably 60% through the book at this point.
Okay.
And I definitely today sat myself still the longest. And I couldn't put it down. Like before I was distracted trying to read it. But today I actually said, okay, I'm going to give myself an hour and I'm going to read for an hour, take a break. And I definitely was falling in love with the characters, the storyline. You do a really nice job with visually putting us into their lives. Like Soul is going through the loss and how that loss manifested into depression and what that depression like looked like and how it showed
Mhm.
up was so well. You articulated it so well that you really could like experience it with her, even down to her like now being in her car and living in her storage unit. Like I was like, I could see her in the storage unit,
Mhm.
you know, trying to figure out where she was going to shower. Like it really is some real life stories that either people you know have gone through or maybe even you've gone through it yourself. So trigger warnings all through it, you know, like it really makes you think about life. Also bringing it back to COVID. Colorism
Yes.
is, you know, referenced in there as well. Loneliness, dating, you know, so much that as a woman, I could relate to all three characters. Now, in terms of when you're breaking them down and its emotions, how closely does it relate to your own experiences or experiences of people around you?
I guess it depends. Usually it's so I keep a book, a small book that I write in when I'm thinking of things. I might be watching something on TV, or something might happen in front of me, or something might have happened to me, or almost happened to me, and I'll think in my head, I'm like, yo, that could have, really went left. Imagine if it went left, and then I write myself a note, to do that. So as far as I feel like everything is a piece of me, right? Because I'm either drawing from something within me, or from something that happened around me. And then I build off of it, and then I try to exaggerate. And then, I also try to pull pieces to remind myself to pull pieces of each person's story and connect them, where you don't see that there is a connection coming. All of my stories, if you're somebody who's read all or most of my books, you know that I always have black history, something black in there. I always have some type of disease in there. I usually have three, characters that I draw from. And I usually have another character who has a voice but never has their own, say, like, cat. They are
Like
only
Veronica.
right. Exactly, Veronica. So you know who Veronica is, but she doesn't have her own chapters.
Mm-mm.
I
She's
do
just
that.
interwoven into all of their lives,
Yes.
like a connector.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting because I know there's a lot of people who are aspiring to be authors, or want to write or want to do poetry. So having those different strategies in terms of character development, I think is really important. So if you guys don't know, you know now. You're tuned into Conversations with Coach Law. I'm your favorite around the way therapist, and we're talking with Vick Breedy tonight about her latest book, Bounce Back Magic, and just, you know, in general, how she's inspired and what has helped her to be resilient. And one of the things she's used is writing and putting out books and a clothing brand, all things that have been anchors, I would say, to you turning your pain into passion. One of the things I remember you told me once is that you created things that you were either looking for or you needed.
Definitely.
Right,
Self-fulfilling fruit, right?
right. So as you're developing as an entrepreneur, what has helped you to sort of go and have these different legs, because you're not just an author now, right? It started there, but it has morphed into a whole brand.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how did you do that?
Right. I feel like it's always been the same though. So even like everything is just a bigger version of when we came out with Bitter. And I say we, I include you because you're a part of Team Bitter, right?
Right.
And so, with Bitter, I had t-shirts, I had hats,
Mhm.
I had hoodies, right? And I was doing, and I was creating community around that, right? And I was teaching or telling people that, don't judge the book by the name. It's not really about being bitter. It's about what happens to you when you become bitter. And it doesn't advocate for you to be bitter. You wanna what do you want to do? Well, what I'd like to do is I like to turn something on it that's on its face, turn it on its back so that you could see the other side of it. And with bitter, bitter was like my passion project, and it was my way to deal with adversity. So my whole brand has become about remixing adversity. So from bitter, you got a trilogy: bitter, still bitter, bitter family secrets. From that, you got Stereotyped. Then you got the Stereotyped men's group. Then you got the Stereotyped journal. And you got Selfish Women's Group. Then the Selfish Women's Group novel. What else? I got a Selfish Women's Group journal. Then you got the Genetically Resilient brand. Then you got the Genetically Resilient gala, right? Then what else you got? You got the poetry album that I put out, and I'll also be putting out a poetry book in December. So you heard that here first.
Okay, now. But I do see the evolution of the Vick Breedy brand. I feel like when we started, it was more bitter, and then it evolved into vickbreedy.com. That I don't remember that being where we started. It was
I didn't have a website when I started.
Right. And so then it was like, okay, well, we want to be more than bitter. It's really you. We're really selling you. So I've watched your brand roll out and just really start to get legs, but also get clarity, I would say, because and that also speaks to you don't always need to know every step to take a step. Like it started with one book, and that one book has created Team Bitter, has created all these other brands. It's from that one book. But the premise of it all, of taking your pain and making it turn it into purpose and remixing adversity, which I love that.
And the brilliance part of it is finding a way to serve others too.
Yeah.
Bounce back brilliance. Maybe that'll be book 2.
Maybe. So one of the things, and I had penned me over a page because there was something that you said that stood out to me. Because of course we want y'all to go get the book and read it for yourself.
Yes.
But so there's this piece, right, where she actually, that's the other thing that she does that's super creative. She interweaves in the book, talk about shameless plugs. She plugs herself all throughout the book, right? From buying old girl a hoodie and
Genetically Resilient.
Having the what's not sold. Is it Amina who goes on their date? Isha? I'm getting lost in my characters right now. But she goes on a date. That's not sold. I think that's Isha. No, that's Amina.
Amina went on a date.
Amina goes on a date with this dude Baldwin. Come to find out, her and Baldwin are both reading Vick Breedy books. How about that? That was cute. So where's the lack of book you read? And he tells her Stereotyped. And she's reading Selfish Women's Group. I said, look at her plugging her all in here.
That's where you gotta do it.
There's a piece where the young lady says, God is speaking to me. Thank you, poetress Vick Breedy. That is the message I needed to feel empowered. In a deep, deliberate, slow voice, I repeat what she said. My old self tried to kidnap my new self, but found out that my future self ain't paying no ransom.
The old me is gone. Yes.
And I said, wow, if that's not a bar. My old self tried to kidnap my new self, but found out my future self ain't paying no ransom. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. So I think, as I read a lot of your books, they always end with people sort of getting into a better space. That I don't know what's going to happen yet. We can't tell them, but I'm looking forward to see how they overcome, how they bounce back.
Right.
So talk to us about some of the things that you recently have bounced back from.
Yeah.
I know. Listen, we need this conversation.
What kind of question are you asking me live?
Listen, we're going to see how much. Listen, you get to tell what you want to tell. I ain't telling nothing. I just want to know. Because you say you write and you create things that you need. So I'm sure that this book, similar to
Bitter,
right? Was you were going through something.
I was going through something, right? And I was going through
for 3 years.
Yeah.
It took you 3 years to write this book for a reason.
Yep, I was stuck in the pandemic. I was one of those people who were real extra about the pandemic. Wasn't going anywhere, wasn't having a lot of people come through, kept my son home, masked up. I didn't really come back out until 2.5 years later. And that was a slow, what do you call it, intro back into society.
Mm-hmm.
Lost my grandmother in 2020. That would be Frances Vick. So that's the Vick of the Vick Breedy. And, that was difficult because back in 2017, remember, I started Genetically Resilient and Selfish Women's Group because I became a caretaker or healthcare proxy for my grandmother, and I was on autopilot. I started a group because I needed a self-care group for myself, right? And I also wanted to celebrate, her resilience, my family's resilience, Black people's resilience, anybody who has gone through something and bounced back. And so that's where I came up with Genetically Resilient. All that happened in 2017. And then in 2020, she passed away after having bounced back. So that hit the family hard. And that was also a reason why there was no motivation to write or to do anything, at least at that time. And then I also was married and divorced in that same short period of time. And that was also unpleasant, an unpleasant experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then shit, that's enough. Never mind. And then I feel like that alone, that's
Listen,
enough.
and then life is life, okay? But there's a reason why I'm asking those things, because a lot of the listeners that listen to Conversations with Coach La are looking for inspiration, motivation, and I commend myself, and also am intentional about bringing people on the show that have a story to tell, right? That will pique people's interest to go and look you up and connect more with you, because you are authentic, and you are the epitome, I think, of bounce back magic, and what I say, better than ourselves, right? At the end of the day, we all find ways to navigate this very complex world, right? Even down to I'm still gonna write this book, but I'm gonna do it under a pen name, and not allowing circumstances to hold you back from pursuing a passion or a dream. You just got to find solutions and ways to go around it, right? And I love, again, the whole remixing of adversity, because that's really what ultimately we have to do, is how are you going to do life?
Right.
Because if you don't decide how to do life, life's going to do you.
It sure will.
Listen, the opposite of lifing is life doing you, right? And I don't want to be done by life. So I got to figure out, how am I going to do life? How am I going to take care of me? How am I going to deal with disappointment? Is part of life. Sadness is part of life. Things not going your way is part of life. Heartbreak is a part of life. Joy, happiness is part of life. I think we all got duped, and we got it effed up, that we think that everything is going to be roses and sweet, and there won't be anything. I don't care how much money you have, something's going to happen in life. Something eventually. If it ain't happened yet, it's going to happen. And are you ready for those moments when, shit hits the fan? And I think that's what bounce back magic is about, is that stop thinking nothing's going to happen to you, and it can't happen to you, and you ain't going to go through nothing, because then when it does, it hits you and knocks you to your core. And now what you going to do? Right. And not all of us were taught the skills to be able to, deal with when things hit us hard.
Right.
So we got to figure it out. So all of that happens. You're writing the book. What keeps you going?
Well, that was the problem. Nothing was keeping me going. It's only recently that I finished it. Right. I picked it back up.
Let me reframe that, because in all of that, you're going to work, you're talking to you're taking care of your son, you're still taking care of things that you need to take care of, right? Even if we scale back someplace.
Yeah.
What did you draw from to be able to do those things?
I believe it was when I gave myself grace, because like I said, I was, guilting myself and shaming myself for not having completed a book, telling myself I'm gonna write this next, I'm gonna do a sci-fi, I didn't do that. All right, let me go back to what I know how to write. Let me tell these stories, these vulnerable stories. And I just didn't have, like I said, I didn't have the motivation. I didn't have the energy, the capacity to just have that discipline to sit in front of the computer after work. Right. And, I'm not a night person either. So, my energy is different after work than it is, say, first thing in the morning. So it was only till, after I had been doing my poetry, I made a decision to give myself grace and say, like, girl, you wrote a few books, like, sit in that for a minute, right? Put out the poetry album. I had to feel like I could do something, an accomplishment, and I can do that with the poetry, right? I could write a poem and get it out, and I completed it, right? So I gave myself little small incremental wins, and then I got to about 40,000 words, and I hooked up with a new editor, and I was like, girl, read this. I haven't put a book out in 3 years. And the editor, this is a new editor. She doesn't know me. And I was like, what you think of this? And I felt like I would get, an honest opinion, almost like my first Amazon review from Bitter when I first came out that wasn't a friend or a family member. It was affirming, so she felt that it was good. And now I had somebody to kind of, not that she was waiting on it, but somebody to I wrote 5,000 more words, girl, come read it. Like
a little nudge.
Yeah. So that was helpful.
I think that you make a really good point about support. And you actually touch on that in Bounce Back Magic.
A lot.
Because Soul, the character, took so long to really open up. Yes. And it took that hug from Amina.
Yeah. Don't tell the whole story, girl. I need people to read this book.
Yeah. I'm giving y'all nuggets, right? These little nuggets. But sometimes it's these little gestures, these little moments of kindness, of grace, of self-compassion that we can give each other that makes all the difference. That's why I bring that up.
Yes.
Right.
Definitely.
Those little reach outs, those little things, right? With, like they say, check on your strong friends.
Yes.
Sometimes when people get quiet, they're getting quiet because they're going through something. There's something happening, right? Or even when people get real busy, sometimes that's a sign too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it. That's how I got it done. Somebody was actually looking for it.
Yeah, that nudge. But I think even you saying, hey, take a look at this, was the first opening of that door to invite her in. And sometimes we got to be able to invite people in to let them know we want that feedback, or that we're receptive to that hug or that check-in, right? Because sometimes we don't leave space for people to do that. Right. And we take a risk. Like Amina took a risk that moment when she did that. They both did. And I was like, oh, that was heavy. Okay. But I love that moment. That was one of my favorite moments so far. I really do appreciate your books, and it has caused me to sit still. And I think those of us that do a lot need to sit still sometimes, even for 15 minutes and read, and just sit still and allow yourself to be in another place. I think reading is very different than watching a movie or being on your phone. It engages a different part of your brain. So I encourage people, to pick something up that you enjoy reading. And these books are very good. I tell you no lie.
Breedy book.
Listen, I tell you no lie. Go look at the reviews for yourself. I know this is my girl. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm always going to love everything she does. But real talk, if it was suck, we got that relationship. I would be like, girl, no. But all her books are good.
Thank
I
you.
haven't read a bad one yet. So we talked about therapy. And you know, I'm a big advocate for my mantra, bet on self, because that was inspired by my dad, and that's been my anchor, is reminding myself. My affirmation is be like, listen, you know what you need to do. You always bet on self, right? That's what you got to do. And the acronym has now, the mantra has now morphed into an acronym, which is to believe, empower, and transform. And as I think about your journey, I can pinpoint different things as being your friend where I feel like you've bet on yourself.
Okay.
But I also know that there's a lot of quiet bet on self moments that no one sees.
Okay.
Right? And so I'm
What you want to know? What you want to know?
I'm curious, you know, like things we can't see. Because of course you see the book and somebody can be like, oh, well, she started her brand. She's betting on self. And I see her taking care of her grandmother. And there's certain stuff you have let us see because of being a public figure. What about those quiet bet on self moments? Those moments that no one else sees except for you and the man upstairs, God, the universe. Those silent moments. Are you comfortable talking about those moments that you have to dig deep?
I gotta think about what those are. I'm just trying to plug in. I gotta think about what the quiet ones are because I don't know.
And you don't have to do quiet ones, but I just know I see the big ones.
Right. What's quiet? Let's see. I think even just, starting therapy was quiet, right?
Talk to us about
it.
Talk to us about it.
Yeah, that was quiet because, I felt like my needs were getting met without therapy.
Well, I think this is a good point. Like going to therapy is a bet on self moment. And a lot of people don't look at it like that, but it takes a lot of courage to stop and be still and say, you know what? I think I need a little bit more support. I'm not even going to say help. I just need a little bit more support with this section of my life and this time of my life.
I needed a mirror. Right. My mirror was distorted. And so, I found somebody. So that was the other thing too. So, you recognize like, all right, maybe it's time that, you get another perspective. Right. And then it was like, okay, who, and where am I going to find them? And, who do I want? And I'm like, I've gone through a lot. So I'm going to need somebody who's older than me, who has lived longer than me, and somebody who looks like me, in order for me to be able to kind of lean into the conversation. Because I couldn't just be like, oh, I get somebody Black, that ain't enough for me. Because I feel like I've been through, everybody probably feels like they've been through a lot. But thank you, Joanna. Great book.
Yeah, we got lots of comments. I'm trying to throw some of them up here.
Right.
What's up, Ella Ray? We see you. Rika, thank you for all of the love and for you just participating in the dialogue. We love you, girl. Yes, Joanne, thank you. It is a great book. So you were saying, being intentional about who you asked for support. You said you had to be older. You didn't want
I waited. Right. So I needed it. I needed support before I actually got support. And I just sat it out and waited and got an older Black woman therapist. Black lady therapist. She had to have lived longer than me.
Life. One of the things I tell people that I love about my field is as I mature, I become even more sought after as I become seasoned. Yeah. So where some places you need to retire, in this field, it just opens up more clientele. And I want to stay young and vibrant too, so that way I don't have people think that they can't have me as a therapist. I had one guy say he only wants like older. She gotta be unattractive. He can't have a good looking therapist.
Oh man. I don't have any
that explains why I don't have many male clients. That's
stuff. I hear you. Let them know.
Listen. I want to be the sexy lady therapist. Okay.
You got that. So
but
yeah,
therapy,
so that was a bet on self moment for me, starting therapy.
Yeah, I can see that, because that's a quiet. That's not something you're going to necessarily be loud about and let everybody know. Like, what, I'm in therapy, right? Like not everybody. A lot of people still not comfortable with that. I was contemplating this, so I read someplace. No, it was in your book. Wait a minute. It was in your book.
Shoot, you quoting Vick Breedy?
Wait. I was about to say, wait a minute. I was about to say, I just read something. I'm like, no, that was in your book. So they went to a spa, and the thing, they didn't say treatment. They said experience.
Yes.
And I started saying, I wonder if I should start calling my things therapeutic experiences. You're going to book a therapeutic experience, baby. You ain't coming to treatment. So it got me to thinking about rebranding.
Okay.
What coming to therapy looks like, especially as I'm redoing my office and I want to have my feng shui and my sage and all of that, right? That you come into a therapy experience, especially when I get a bigger space, because it's coming. I'm speaking that into existence.
It hits different.
Yeah. I be getting on here and I be having my whole visionary moments myself. So any other quiet bet on self moments that you can think of? Was that
that was probably the biggest. Anything else, if it's something that anybody else can benefit from, I try to make it into something. Like I'm putting out this poetry book next month, and it has a lot of my thoughts and feelings, inside it.
Listen, she texts me all the time. Finish your book. I'm still not done, y'all. You think she said 3 years? I've been writing mine for 6. I started mine before my dad passed away, and I have not finished my poetry book. Although I now have 50 pages.
Okay.
So I made some progress.
Okay.
But I do think it's nice, and it's nice. I'm grateful to have people around me that are creatives, that are consistently operating in their bounce back magic. So, you can't really be in our circle without being inspired
we have a dope circle
to do something, right? Like you can't be around us. Like they say, you be around me too long, I have you believing in yourself and doing all types of dope stuff, right? So I really, really appreciate that, and I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful to be your friend, and I'm thankful that we are in doing life simultaneously. It's pretty dope. So
I'm proud of you too, boo.
Oh, thank you. She's one of the.
I'm on your show right now.
She's one of the big, I would say, one of my cheerleaders, but she's also a realist too. That helped make the decision for me to quit my full-time job. Vick was one of the people that I called and walked through. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm thinking about doing. Here are my concerns. What do you think? Do you see any blind spots? Do you see anything that I'm missing? And so I value your opinion. And you was like, I can't really say what she be saying, because can't nobody else talk to me like that. It's inappropriate, okay? Don't you dare. She's the only person in my circle that can speak to me that way. But basically, it was something like, yo, what is your problem? You better jump. You better jump. So, yeah. I value that. And it definitely, you, Rika, got 2 best friends, Sharika and also Natia. And of course, my sisters were very much a part of that decision. And also Marv Neal. Shout out to Marv Neal too. There were certain people that were part of the conversation about what I wanted to do that I value and respect their opinion. So shout out to my support system and my folks.
Hey, everybody needs one.
And I'm still here, still in private practice, still holding it down. So clearly it wasn't the wrong decision. So what are some thoughts you want to leave people with as we wrap up and close out?
Go get my book. I told y'all it took me 3 years, so go get it. I'm going to be at a couple of places. I wish I knew all the dates. Let's see. I'm going to be at Frugal's next year, January 11th. It's going to be on a Saturday from 1 to, I don't remember. I'll have to get back to you on that, but definitely January 11th from, I don't know when, at Frugal's in Roxbury. I'm going to be at UMass Boston, ma'am, on December 3rd from 6 to 7:30, I believe.
Okay.
I'm going to be at the Pop Boutique. What date is that? I think the 27th. And then I'm going to be at Black Market on December 21st.
Okay.
Nowhere in November, y'all. Nowhere in November. So everything I'm giving you is December and January.
Okay. All right. So you're busy. Now, I'm assuming that you're going to put out a calendar at some point, or you're going to put this all on a thing.
I will.
I know I didn't show you like how I put all my dates out with
yes, you have.
You need to do that.
Yeah.
And it will be on www.vickbreedy.com, which is where you can find all things Vick Breedy.
Yes.
You can also find out about our upcoming Selfish Women's Group, which is in January
12th, and our men's group is January 11th.
Okay, so those are free.
Yes.
Did I say that again? Free, yes. FREE, free. So those that are looking for groups, tap into the Selfish Women's Group. We have a Facebook page that you can tap into to stay updated, and of course, subscribe to vickbreedy.com so you'll know about everything that we got going on. And hopefully I'll have this book done. I have a deadline to have the book out by January 2025.
Get it out.
I'm going to finish this bad boy up. I think I'm more close to being done than I think. But I do realize that I need to be strategic and actually like map out a certain time per week to work on it. And then it would be done. Yeah. So I'm going to do like I do with studying, whatever the deadline is, and then just do a map out. Okay, how many pages I want to get done, and then send it off to the editor, and I will have my first book out. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for you, and I can't wait.
I'm excited about that. Like, I am probably going to straight up cry when it does come out, and it's in like a bookstore. Like, that's going to be like,
I'll take my selfie with it.
I'm too excited. I'm getting excited thinking about it. That's what I needed, though. I need to get excited so I can finish. I need to finish. But it's always a pleasure having you on the virtual couch with me. You know, I'm super proud of all that you have accomplished and just how you show up for yourself and for your friends and your family. It's definitely commendable, and not everybody can do that. Not everybody is cut from that cloth. There will never be another Vick Breedy, baby.
Right. Let them know.
Never. Listen.
Let them know.
She is something that if you haven't experienced her, then you definitely want to go check out her events and just her books. You know, that's the best way to experience it, is to read her books.
I'm gonna leave y'all with a poem.
Okay, please.
All right, I'm gonna leave y'all with the poem that's on the back of this book. Go get this book. It should speak to you, especially if you're a Black woman, Afro-Latino Black woman.
Let's get it.
Strong Black Womanitis. Let's see here. Intersectionally paying the cost. Socioeconomically forced to be the boss. I'm talking about Black woman. Your mamas, nanas, sisters, and aunts enter their home and they always got something good cooking in their pot. They make anything taste better. Black woman equivalent to go-getter. Keeping the faith in secrets while they silently suffer in pain. Feeling guilty, saying no, choked by the cross on their neck, held by a rope chain. Neglecting self-care and doing the most. Making a way out of no way. World's best host. A Mary J lyric at the tip of their tongue. They've gone through some shit, but that melanin got them looking real young. Truth is, they're feeling older than they are. Accomplishment stacking, steady raising the bar. On autopilot, so it looks effortless. Listen when I tell you, Black women are stressed. They try to relax. They went as far as their hair, fibroids, alopecia, cancer-causing agents. It's not fair. Doctors not believing that something's wrong. Deja vu when they feel like they don't belong. Governments regulating our bodies and births. Health outcomes different for Black women, statistically worse. Redefining femininity or waiting for permission to drop our guards. Other women have no idea being a Black woman is hard. We want Sojourner Truth's answer, question answered. Ain't I a woman? Society expecting us to be super but not human? Help me, listen to me, see me, love me, protect me. A few things on my list, because Black women tend to suffer from strong Black womanitis. And it's
bars. Snap, snap, snap. Thank you so much.
Thank
Vick
you.
Breedy, for being on Conversations with Coach La. You guys already know what to do. Continue to bet on self. Make sure you tune in next week for another episode, another conversation. Vick Breedy, we're going to keep being genetically resilient. Y'all keep tapping into that bounce back magic. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Tuning in.
Nancia, Smokehouse, it's the urban heat. Shout out to Coach La. Coach LA, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the urban heat, just call it. Conversations with Coach La, 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 conversations with Coach La, 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 la. If you got something on your mind, you can call him, you can hit a line. She the realest, ooh, she the realest. You can tap in, loud, always get a business to empower you, so that you can do every and anything that you want to. Kicking it with Coach LA, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the urban heat, just call it. Conversations with Coach La, 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 la.